What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Fight HQ Q&A for UFC 285. I am Jason Floyd. Of course, you know who that is. That is the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Good afternoon, Pete. How you doing, man?
What's going on? It is fight day, and we are here to have another edition on Fight HQ talking about the fight card, seeing if we have any updates, answering your questions. Happy to be here 2 days a week. So yeah, let's get into it. I love it.
You know, I start my morning and I'm over on our Discord channel, which of course totally free to join. You can see the link right there in the YouTube description below. And I see this message from you that says, after constructing lineups, I've changed my mind on one fight. Tune in at 4:30 to find out. All right, Pete, what have you changed your mind on?
So, well, I mean, it's not like where I'm completely flipping on the fight, but I basically had minimal exposure to the Amanda Hebos and Viviane Araujo fight. And then after constructing lineups, trying to get some of these top priced fighters into my lineups, I'm desperate to find some underdogs. So I actually increased my exposure to Viviane Araujo a little bit more than I wanted to when we had our initial show yesterday. But I think lineup construction was kind of boxing me into a corner where I wanted to get to certain levels of exposure for certain fighters. And with all that being said, Viviana Araujo is within my player pool a little bit more than I expected.
Yeah, I will tell you, in terms of when I was building my cash lineups, the thing that I found myself going to was getting away from Derek Brunson, who was kind of going to be when I was looking at that 7,500 and below, he was just one of the guys that just really stuck out to me. And the reason he stuck out to me was merely because of the fact of, I see the upside, but as I think about that fight more and more, the more I just think Derek Brunson's not a good play today.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of the safer bets out there because of his resume and how many fights he's had in the octagon and the unknowns about 𝗫𝗓 𝗄𝗡, about his takedown defense. He's only had to defend one takedown in the UFC. So Brunson's going to go out there, or he should go out there and attempt, 10 plus takedowns. It's just, does he get caught during it? He leaves his neck out there really, really exposed. And I do think a guy that is pretty savvy with submissions and 𝗫𝗓 𝗄𝗡 can capitalize one way or another, hit him with a big shot or capture the neck. So I do think that Derek Brunson's going to be everybody's darling at this bottom end range because of the resume and because of the floor he can get you because of the takedowns. It's just a matter of, like, he could be winning the fight until he gets, hit with a shot or caught in a guillotine. So I'm a little bit, my exposure is there just in case, because I don't want to have zero exposure with them. It's minimal, but I'm somewhat mimicking the field.
Yeah, I will tell you, and we're going to get into questions here in a moment. We're going to go over to Discord, answer all the questions that were asked in Discord earlier on today. But when I was looking at that under 70, I mentioned that 7,500, Mana Martinez, someone I thought about, and I just, I think the one that could become interesting, and I think it's the first two fights of the night, of maybe looking at either one of those underdogs when you're trying to develop a tournament lineup, that they, to me, could potentially be that key to taking down an optimal.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many unknowns with the first fight of the night. You have Loic Rajabov taking the fight on short notice, but being an alternate for the Ultimate Fighter. We know that he is a talented fighter, was one of the favorites to win the PFL tournament. Did not do so, but had some competitive matchups. He seems like a guy who gasses, though. Goes out there, and his best path to victory is by incorporating wrestling. His takedowns are pretty strong. I just don't think that he can maintain a pace for 15 full minutes without his opponent starting to, get some momentum. And Esteban Ribovic is at the bottom end of the entire salary pool at 7,200, and he's a guy that really has finishing power. But outside of round one and early round two, we don't know if he's 15 minutes ready. So I'm sprinkling a little bit more Ribovic just because of the unknowns and the volatility surrounding, the first fight of the night, Jason's favorite fight. But I have to tell you, Loic Rajabov could be one of those guys that I don't know. I don't really want to get to him. I'll take a wait and see approach. He could rack up tons of takedowns en route to a dominant fight and make the UFC, well, not the UFC, but kind of just make sure everybody knows who he is and that he was supposed to be on the Ultimate Fighter and kind of got screwed. I actually I don't have any Loic Rajabov today, and that's kind of like where I have to get
Mhm.
different. I can't be spread too thin today, Jason. So I look at these 9,000 options and I'm like, wow, we are completely spoiled. I'm okay with getting away from Loic Rajabov today, and if I'm wrong, so be it.
That was actually one of the questions that came in into the score of asking us to rank the 9K options 1 through 6. So we've got Bo Nickel, Valentina Shevchenko, Ian Gary, Basharat, Loic, and also Rachmanov. To me, I think I would. It's like a 1A 1B situation for me in terms of
hmm
these. I would probably go. I would go Valentina 1, Bo Nickel 2.
I will say I would agree with you, just because of Valentina is one of the best fighters on this entire planet. Bo Nickel's relatively unknown, even though I love him. It's just a salary is a little bit restrictive for building lineups. I will agree with you. I think that Shevchenko is going to be the chalkiest 9,000 option, 5 rounds to work with, has takedowns in her back pocket, mixes things up really well. Me, how I'm getting different from the field, I'm really, really aggressive on Ian Gary today. So if I had to list those favorite 9,000 options, I would agree with you. Shevchenko 1, Nickel 2, just because of the salary. And Ian Gary's number 3 for me all day long. And that's a fighter where I really went bullish on today, hoping that I'm hitting it at the right time.
Ian Gary is my number 3 as well. I think 3, 4, 5 is kind of there. I
Mhm.
put Ian Gary over just slightly Basharat and Rachmanov. And then, of course, Razumov would be number 6 for me.
Yeah, Rajabov's my least favorite. And it comes down to Shavkat Rakhmonov. I mean, if history repeats itself, he's going to get another finish. It's just it is against Jeff Neal, out of Fortis MMA, who just missed weight. I got to go with Rachmanov
So,
here. I
and,
just do.
and sizable weight miss, too.
Yeah, 5 pounds. So I do think that there is some injury regarding that weight miss, and that's why the initial matchup between these two did not occur. Fareed Basharat's good, but there are some question marks about his strength of schedule. So I have to go with Rachmanov as my fourth favorite. But I wouldn't fault you if you wanted to get really, really aggressive with Rachmanov over Ian Gary. I just went back and watched Ian Gary against Gabe Green, and I'm just like captivated. I have to get aggressive here against Song Kanan.
Yeah. Thoughts on Alexa Grasso, even in a loss? Now, I do not mind that in a cash game mindset. I don't know if I
hmm
really love this in terms of a GPP, because what concerns me about her in a loss is that she is just taken down and she just doesn't really have the ability to rack up points. If this fight stays on the feet, I love her as a cash game play. But I just feel like we're going to see Valentina go out there and just utilize her grappling to neutralize what Alexa can do on the feet.
I would agree with you. I think that the card size would have to be smaller, and our options would have to be limited. I do think that there are plenty of fighters within the bottom end to get to. In a loss, I don't think that Alexa Grasso pays off more times than she doesn't. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
she defended 7 takedowns against Carla Esparza, which is great, but I just think that the variety and the dynamic attack that Shevchenko can present makes Shevchenko the safest play on the board as far as like 9,000 options are considered. So Grasso, I think, is going to be decently popular, and let me check my exposure. Just because it's a absolute punt play for 5 rounds. If it's a stand up war, she has solid volume, but yeah, I'm significantly underweight to that ownership that I'm seeing right now.
Do you guys like Rachmanov and Seymon more now that their opponents missed weight? Um, it's more of a concern for me on the Jeff Neal aspect when you miss weight by that much. Makes me do wonder, and you brought this point yesterday on the preview show of, this fight was delayed because of an injury with Jeff Neal. It does go into your mindset of, has he recovered from that injury?
He seemed to be a little irritated at the press conference too when somebody pressed him about injuries. And then he misses weight the next day. So it's almost like the injury, came back, or he got injured in a different way. Maintaining your health throughout camp is a struggle as it is. Then you combine that with a weight cut. I don't know. I think that Jeff Neal has plenty of skill. I just think that one guy has all the finishing equity, but is somewhat gun shy at times, and Rachmanov is lackluster at times, waiting for the perfect opportunity, and then he captures it with both hands. Jeff Neal could just be the more active fighter on the outside, and en route to getting a decision win. But I was really surprised with how much Jeff Neal I got to today. This is a guy that I don't think is going to win the fight, but I think at that price point, he's just so damn cheap. And because I'm so aggressive with these 9,000 options, I ended up, what am I in there, 19%? Like that's a lot for a guy that I don't think is going to win. But a decision win for Jeff Neal isn't the craziest thing.
Next up, best FanDuel value options to get in at least two, if not three $20 options. So looking over at FanDuel and value play. So, I consider value play $14 and under over on FanDuel. So to me, even though I do like Matthias Gamrot to go out there and get the victory, the $13 on Jalen Turner is a very nice price tag of what Jalen can do if he can keep the fight on the feet and utilize his 7-inch reach advantage that he has in this one. Trevin Jones, I think, is another interesting potential value play over there. We all know the issues that Cody has had in terms of striking. And, I talked about yesterday on the preview show that he was very open and honest about, his quote was, "My life was in shambles," heading into his previous fight. He's done some moves there. 24 hours ago, I was a lot higher on Derek Brunson than I am now. The more and more I've looked in this fight, the more and more I understand why you would go there, Pete, but it's not really something I want to go to. And Damon Blackshear would probably be another one that I'd be open to getting to, but I'd rather probably go to Esteban than Blackshear.
Yeah, I hope I didn't steer you in the wrong way if Brunson ends up pulling this off. It's an interesting matchup, you know what I mean? But like for me personally, when I think of Derek Brunson, I think of excellent wrestler, but a complete liability, durability wise, cardio wise. Even if he was facing somebody that had better submission skills, I do think that he puts himself into a ton of positions that are very, very bad. It's just nobody's been able to really capture the neck of him. And I don't know. I'm a little bit higher on Dricus du Plessis than most. I would say, as far as like FanDuel is considered, the biggest unknown on this entire card has to be Esteban Hribovich. Well, John Jones also, but Esteban Hribovich. We don't know how he's going to look in there, under the bright lights against a formidable opponent. So somebody who's actually going to push him. So I would agree with you. I'd probably lean Hribovich over Blackshear. Those Basharat boys are talented.
Yeah.
Farid might not be as good as Javid, but they're both very, very talented and have a ton of high-level training partners to work with and get prepared for. So I can't believe it, Jason. We got 150 people in here checking us out on the live Q&A here for UFC 285. We have John Jones tonight against Cyril Gane, and can't wait to see what happens. Get to watch the fights. We'll be in our Discord. Please join the Discord. Have a conversation with us throughout the card. And please hit that like button. Get us over 100 likes for this video. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our content.
I'm probably gonna miss out on the prelims. I've got my nieces and nephew is over here for spending the night because of my brother-in-law. It's his birthday, so him and my sister-in-law are out having fun. So we got the kids here tonight, so I gotta kind of wait for them to go to sleep before I can really start enjoying the fight. So that's but hey, it's always good. They're excited to be here, so they're actually in the other room trying to be quiet. So hopefully they don't hear too much.
Yeah, that'll be me soon, right? Yeah, trying to just navigate the schedule with the baby on the way. So
people did notice in the comment section on the background as Pete told me. He said, he goes, "Yeah, this room is filled with a lot of necessities that are going to be needed here in a couple weeks."
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna make a diaper pyramid behind me, and I ran out of time though. It was gonna be pretty sweet, but yeah, we got Pampers and Huggies all over, and my buddy was like, "You still don't have enough," so I probably don't.
No, that is very true here. I was trying to find my Discord app on the iPad. I'm like, I know it's on the iPad here somewhere. Let's get to the next question. Top 3 MVPs and champions. So thinking about from the FanDuel perspective, I still think Valentina is a very interesting one. I would put her in the top 3. I love the upside of what Gamrot could do. And then I would say I would probably also and it's not just because of what you said. It's just kind of me thinking about Derek Brunson. And we can look at the takedown upside. But I've just, over the past couple hours, I've been thinking more and more about this. Is 𝗃𝗃 𝗄𝐻 the guy that breaks the slate tonight?
I think it's either him or Cameron Saaiman, and really, really close salaries. But I think high finishing upside for both guys, truthfully. Like I'm just thinking about it, and we know that Cameron Saaiman and 𝗃𝗃 𝗄𝐻, Saimon's his understudy. You know what I mean? Like it's his little protege. So I am favoring these guys. I think they're both pretty violent for the divisions. They hit really hard, bite down on that mouthpiece, and are well rounded. And I like well rounded fighters. I think Simon's in a favorable matchup against Mana Martinez, who was dropped 3 times in a matter of like a minute and a half against Ronnie Lawrence. 𝗃𝗃 𝗄𝐻 going up against Derek Brunson, who, forgot he was a wrestler for a long time, was knocked out against Israel Adesanya. Can't fault him for that. Jacare Souza, Robert Whitaker. So Yoel Romero, he's fought legitimate competition, and most recently was knocked out against Jared Cannonier. Once he was, some takedowns were defended. He went 3 of 13 in the takedown department. So if he's unable to control you and keep you on the mat, you are alive to finish him. And I think a guy like 𝗃𝗃 𝗄𝐻 can get back to his feet. We had Emin Shabazian get planted on the mat and controlled for a large majority, which made Brunson much more dominant. A guy who's going to get back to his feet and try to punish you, and 𝗃𝗃 𝗄𝐻. I think the finishing upside's all day there.
Ian Gary, I think, is another great MVP and champion option.
Yeah, I'm looking at FanDuel, right? We got MVP. Bo Nickel is 22. I'm all over that. If I was playing on FanDuel, I would just lock in Bo Nickel, because his inside the distance sits at -650 last time I checked. I'm sure it has ballooned even more, and you get a little bit of discount from Shevchenko. Ian Gary's great. He's at 21, but we have seen Gary just kind of play with his food a little bit. Darian Weeks, Gabriel Green, whereas Bo Nickel, even on the Contender Series and in his minimal fights thus far, he's talking about getting a finish, wanting a finish, and still has tremendous wrestling upside. So Bo Nickel would be the only MVP I would be playing on FanDuel.
By the way, I did pin the DraftKings contest in the chat, so be sure to get into that. Let's get that thing filled up. Next question from Discord. 1 fighter to lock, 1 fighter to 2 times the field on, and 1 fighter to half the field on. 1 fighter to lock, it's hard for me. It's hard for me not to say Bo Nickel, but there is a price aspect to him. If I think there's a couple of different ones that you could lock in on. I think that if you're max entering a contest, I think your thought process has to be looking at ownership projections and saying, okay, who is that high end option that just is not owned highly? I will tell you the projected ownership on John Jones, I think, is low. I really do. I thought it'd be much higher.
No way. I'm pretty high. What'd you expect?
I was thinking above 50%, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
I still don't know if I would probably say that it's going to be around 50. I have to tell you. I think that is very accurate.
And to me, it's the price. Like someone in Discord was asking about, fading the main event. And I said, it's tough for me to fade the main event because of the price tag, not just on Jones, but also on Gane. But as me and you were talking before the show, if you're getting into these big GPPs and you're only entering one lineup or, handful of lineups in there, and you truly want to get different than the field, eliminate the main event, co-main event, and Bo Nickel from your player pool, and you'll get drastically different from the field. Now, look, you're potentially losing out on fighters that can easily score 110, 115, 120 points. But if you're a single bullet, that is a way to get different.
Yeah, when you said that to me before the show, I was like, bro, you are right. Like you are so right. It's crazy. That's how you solo ship a tournament right there. No main event, no co-main, because co-main Shevchenko, the most trustworthy 9,000 option. Main event, mid-priced. Say it's a dud. Say it's somewhat of a lackluster fight. And then you eliminate the highest favorite on the card and Bo Nickel, who kind of restricts your lineup creation. I think that means more Ian Gary. That means more Rakhmonov. That means Rajabov and Basharat. So that would be so unique that you would totally take down a tournament by itself. The issue is when the chalk hits, you know what I mean? If it hits. So that's the risk you take, but that's why you should be taking these aggressive approaches when you play GPPs. Like I'm not the type of guy to play so safe at all. Like, do you remember like a couple years ago, like I was like Evan Dunham over Herbert Burns, and like would I lock in Evan Dunham, and he got smoked in round 1 or something.
Yeah.
But like the idea of just getting so aggressive and trying to set yourself up for success, instantly, like a ton of success over the field or just a complete flop, but be okay with it because it's the peaks and valleys.
Yeah, I mean, and also I think it's very critical on the type of tournament you're playing in or type of cash game you're playing in terms of like look today, like in cash, I will tell you, I have pretty much all my cash lineups have Alexa Grasso in it. I'm just flat out just being honest because it's then allowing me to get to basically whoever else I want
in the cash.
Yeah. She's a cash game play for me. She's not a GPP play.
Yeah, clearly not. I think the thing would be like, do you like Rosso or Jeff Neal? But I guess the 5 rounds is what for cash would make you want to do that. I actually think
Yeah.
Neal's actually live to pull off this upset. We've seen him make quick work of Vicente Luque and had a breakout performance there. And I don't know. I think you kind of it's really close, but I understand just punt and get the 5-round fighter a part of your cash lineup.
And especially since Shevchenko is a slow starter, is maybe she can rack up some points in the first and second round, and and you've talked about this game theory multiple times of finding that low salary fighter who could get you a floor of 40 or 50 points, and then it allows you to build the rest of your lineup. Next question: top 2 chalk underdogs.
I'm really surprised that some of these underdogs that I was talking about aren't really popular. Cyril Gane's clearly going to be the chalkiest underdog just because of the people stacking. Then it gets interesting. Then I would probably say that it's got to be Jalen Turner, but I don't like that stylistic matchup. I mean, he is a massive human being, needs to land a perfect shot against 𝗵𝗲 𝗫𝗀, but that's probably where I think people would go to, even though I think it should be Viviane Araújo over Jalen Turner.
Next up, what is Esteban's path to victory?
Knockout. I mean, he's got a. We see that he has some submissions on his record, but I don't think that's stupid. Like if I see Cyril Gane defend a takedown tonight with a Kimura, I'm going to lose my mind. Or like try to go defend the takedown with a guillotine. No, defend the takedown the right way. You need 𝗵𝗵𝗏 to land some powerful shots, sprawl and brawl. Go out there, do your best Chuck Liddell impersonation, and keep the fight in the center of the octagon, not against the cage.
Brunson or Esteban?
Esteban.
Yeah, I would go that way too. Is there a chance Gane, even in a win, scores enough points to be optimal on a 14-fight card?
I say yes, because I'm not like in love with a ton of underdogs. That's where I'm going today. And if Gane craps out and gets dominated, hopefully, maybe even in a loss, he just does enough. I don't think that If he loses, I would imagine he doesn't. But yeah, that's the guy I'm getting to the most.
Of course, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. That truly does help us out. And if you're just finding us over here Fight HQ, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Myself and Pete, we're here every week for UFC events. So, and of course, I'll have various content throughout the week as well. Of course, be sure to join our Discord channel. But Pete, right now, let's get into these YouTube questions. Up first, we got Frank Shevchenko and Rachmanov, or Bo and Basharat for cash.
Yikes. I wish I saw what the rest of the lineup was, obviously, but I think I got to go Shevchenko and Rachmanov for cash. There are some unknowns regarding Bo. There are some unknowns regarding Basharat. Less unknowns on both sides. You have a prolific finisher in Rachmanov, and the best pound for pound, well, the best women's mixed martial artist on the other side in Shevchenko, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this, and I'm just like, I'm looking at both sides, and I keep thinking of, if Shevchenko goes 4 rounds, goes 5 rounds, how is she, and in a victory, how is she not optimal? Like that's right. The part that I keep thinking about in terms of Shevchenko and how much I want to get to her. Next up, it goes, would you discuss roster construction in terms of DK ownership, the 5 most and 5 least owned fighters in DraftKings? Look, I think it depends on something I mentioned earlier, the type of contest you're in, how many entries you're putting in that contest. That to me is where you kind of, that's how I'm constructing a line. Like if I'm a single bullet, I am going to be much more aggressive on some of these underdogs that I go, okay, if they win, here's their path to 100 points, because I think in a 14 fight card, you have to have the mindset today, I need 650 points.
Yeah, agree. You know, and what I would say for like highest owned, I'm not going to go through them all like that, but I will say for like each range, it makes sense that Shevchenko is probably going to be the highest owned fighter of the 9,000 range. So much to, you know, to base your opinion off of. The guy in the 8,000 range that has a ton of upside against a very durability question mark, it would probably be Dricus du Plessis. And then like under 8,000, I really think it's probably just going to be the main event, which Ciryl Gane, even in a loss with all the people who stack main events and co-mains, I would just probably say that he would probably be the most popular underdog out there.
Noah, it's Jamie Pickett season. Did you hear what Jamie Pickett said this week?
He didn't know who Bo Nickal was, bro.
How do you accept the fight and not know? Because like, let's just be honest about it. I would love to know if you went to Mick and Sean and said, how many people turned down this fight?
Oh, yeah. And you know what's the funniest thing is all these guys that just get an email from the UFC and just respond yes. And the UFC is like, let's send out a mass email. out of 500 fighters within this division, let's hope that there's one idiot that doesn't know who Bo Nickal is. And Jamie Pickett just happened to accept and sign before he did his research. It's like, goodness gracious. I understand what you're trying to do. The UFC is really like, I don't think like the UFC is going to keep Jamie Pickett around. It's not like he took this on short notice. That's when you kind of have some leverage. There's no leverage here, in my opinion. You're just being brought in to lose. And I don't think that Bo Nickal is going to, you know, ruin his debut, unlike some other highly touted wrestlers that we have seen and, you know, cross over to MMA, a lot of them in Bellator. So I think that Jamie Pickett's in for a quick loss tonight.
Something I did want to mention in relation to the main event, because there has been so much talk, especially over the past 2 to 3 days, about John Jones's physique. And I think that you even have fighters saying that, hey, they thought maybe you'd see a more chiseled John Jones than what we have seen. And I was thinking about this earlier today of a conversation that I had with Linton Vassell, you know, after he had made his transition from 205 to heavyweight. And he told me, he said, he goes, his first fight, he just had the mindset that he had to be big. He had to put on his most weight. And he said, he goes, I got to fight night and we got to round 2 and I was just lethargic. And so he said, he goes, I had to find that sweet spot. And he said, for me, the sweet spot was basically 240 to 245 pounds. And, you know, and I've had this conversation with fighters in all types of weight classes where they say, and I'm sure you can kind of relate to this, Pete, too, is you find that spot where you feel like you're walking around weight is where you can perform the best at. And that's one of those things that, in terms of the question marks with Jon Jones heading into this one, is his body at a weight that is allowing him to maximize performance? Because I was watching this roundtable discussion they had. It was with Cormier, Rashad, Anthony Smith, and Dominic Reyes. And, they were kind of talking about, maybe should Johns maybe be like a 235 pound, just chiseled heavyweight. And that may be what is ideal for him at heavyweight.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just the gap in weight classes, right? Like 205 to 265 is massive, man. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't see that in any other weight division. And the issue is that there's, not as many big guys. Like you and I talk about all the time. Finding big guys to train with is a very hard thing to come by. I just so happen to have 90% of my fighters are heavyweights. It's the weirdest thing in the world. We have like all the heavyweights in New England at my gym. Which is good, but I think that's why we haven't seen a 225 weight class. You know what I mean? I really think there should be a 225. That would be
Yeah.
nice. That would be something that I would be backing. Like, okay, Jones, I get that.
Hey, Pete, let's be honest about it. The 205-pound division is a 225-pound division. That's pretty much where they're all walking in the cage at.
Exactly. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The gap is so far. That's like if there was you know, all these people advocating for a 165-pound weight class, but it's like, you know what I mean? They set these weight classes up, and going from lightweight to welterweight seems like a lot. 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Going from light heavyweight to heavyweight is extremely significant. And I know a couple people that had a ton of success in heavyweight division that are not convinced Jon Jones going to do well tonight. So it kind of furthers my opinion on it, and I'm kind of happy that I had those people agree with me. But we'll see. Well, we won't know. Nobody's wrong until tonight.
Next question we got here is, what do y'all think is the most volatile fight in our opinion?
Okay, you ready? Because I feel like it's got to be the 8,200, 8,000 fight for me. Marc-Andre Barriault and Julian Marquez.
Yeah.
There was a time where I unchecked both of them in some of my lineups. I don't want that headache. I could see it being a sloppy, exhausted type of fight, but I can also see somebody picking up a finish because I don't know. I hate that fight.
Yeah, I mean, I found initially I was getting to Julian Marquez, but I found myself pivoting away from him and going to Viviane Araújo, in that same price range. That's one of those fights that does concern me. I think another one could be Garbrandt and Jones. I feel like that's a GPP fight that you have to prioritize, but I don't feel good on either side.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, all my friends and all that, they're big Cody fans, and I like Cody too. I hope he does well. I hope he rights the ship here. But I just think that like there are some other fighters that are struggling in the UFC that are mostly grapplers that the UFC kind of, if he was smart, that's who he would kind of put himself against to kind of get back in the win column. But the one thing Trevin Jones has is like significant power in that right hand, and we talked about it yesterday. 4 of the knockouts that Cody Garbrandt have taken have been from a right hand, and Trevin Jones working at Fortis MMA now. It made me get to him aggressively today. I have to tell you, he may look like he's levels below Cody Garbrandt until he lands a shot, or he might even never land a shot. But I'm kind of at that. I can't trust Cody Garbrandt anymore.
Yeah. Next up here, we got today's dogs are really bad. We are almost forced to play either MAB or Marquez. Preference between these two. When I was getting into it, I was going to Marquez, but didn't feel good about it.
Yeah, I mean, Marquez is. I think they're kind of similar, and Marquez. The only thing is, if you go and you look at what he brings to the table, that is kind of sneaky. That Marc-Andre Barriault struggles with is submissions. When I saw this, it kind of piqued my interest. Darren Stewart, he attempted 3 submissions. Alessio Di Chirico, he attempted 2 submissions, and I'm talking about Julian Marquez here. Against Maki Patolo, he attempted 4 submissions, and 1 time against Sam Alvey, he attempted a submission. So he picked up a submission win over Sam Alvey, Maki Patolo, and Darren Stewart. And if you watch Marc-Andre Barriault's previous performance against Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, he got worked in the wrestling and grappling department. But I think that's much more about the kid's motor than actually a difference in skill. So that's kind of where I didn't uncheck Julian Marquez. I'm like, yeah, he could land a submission, so let me just keep him in my player pool.
Let's get a couple of comments over here from Discord. First, it says John came in a half pound over Gon. Gon isn't a heavyweight to me. 248 versus 247.5. John walked around at 230 before. Pete, you can talk about this. There's good weight and bad weight, and just being heavier, it could be one of the two. I mean, we've seen some guys that are 255 and they move around like they're, light heavyweights, or they could be extremely slow and plodding. I mean, if we're going to point to someone who fought recently, I'll point to last weekend, Augusto Sakai.
Yeah, it's a good one. He's another guy that we couldn't trust either, too, right? And he ended up picking up a nice win over Dontel Mays. So maybe Cody Garbrandt rights the ship. But as far as like the weight gain that John Jones has added to his frame, my buddy was like, he looks like my uncle who shows up on Sundays with a 6-pack. He kind of doesn't like. He doesn't really look like he's a guy that's been in the weight room training and put on the right amount of weight. He's got a little bit of a pot belly, and I don't know. When I look at Ciryl Gane, I just see he looks cut up, and he's got a ton of muscle, which could work against him. It might not, but he looks like a true heavyweight. He looks like a specimen, whereas John Jones, to me, just because I'm around so many heavyweights, he looks like some of my light heavyweights and heavyweights out of camp.
Yeah. Next up, it says, I'm fading the main event as a whole in my lineups. I have 8.7 remaining, and I'm between these two fights. Ribas, Araujo, Barriault, and Marquez. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think the safer way would be to go to the female matchup, but I just don't know if there's a path to 100 points. That would concern me on that one.
Yeah.
The Barriault Marquez, I think that is from a GPP aspect. I would be looking at that one. I'd probably, I love Factory X, and that's what kind of leads me a little bit into the Julian Marquez situation, but Barriault may be the better play.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about that 8,200, 8,000 fight. For me, the Viviane Araujo and Amanda Ribas one was interesting because I started landing on that fight a lot more than I anticipated. I think it's the direct main event pivot. You're going from John Jones to Amanda Ribas at $100 less. You can go from Viviane Araujo, which is $100 more than Ciryl Gane. So I think that if you're trying to get away from the main event, that's where naturally people are going to pivot to. And as far as like finishing equity, I think that Viviane Araujo packs a powerful punch, and Amanda Ribas, I don't want it to happen, but she has shown a susceptibility to get hit with a big shot and rocked, been knocked out in the past on the regional scene as well. She seems content to stand and trade while mixing in and blending in some takedowns. But I do think that Viviane Araujo, who's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, can actually stifle some of the takedown attempts, land her own, get in top position, reverse positions if she is put on her back, and she really works on her boxing extensively. I know she doesn't come from American Top Team like Amanda Ribas, but she packs some power for this division. And, knee-jerk reaction when I saw this fight, I was like, okay, maybe Araujo could pick up a knockout here and break the slate. It has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fights in a row she's gone the distance. So I think she might be due for a finish. We'll see, but I think the most likely scenario is that she can just pull away on the scorecards.
Let's get next question. It's kind of betting related in a way here from Ed. Where he's talking about how he's more siding with Esteban. Ed, but he also notes could be a great spot for a live bet, and this is something you've talked about a lot of live betting MMA.
Live betting MMA is great. It happened last week. Charles Johnson, big fan of Charles Johnson going into that matchup against Ode Osborne, and watching it live. If you have educated eyes and you know the sport, sometimes you get bad bounces, but more often than not, your gut feeling is going to be correct. And I was like, yeah, I don't see Charles Johnson. I could just tell the momentum's not on his side. He just looks lost in there. He looks tired too. And that's something that is so beneficial to notice is fatigue levels in MMA. Who's gassed on the stool, who's gassed at the end of the round. Um, and also confidence. So I was like, okay, let me throw some live money on Ode Osborne, and he ended up pulling off the decision. So despite my love for Charles Johnson going into the fight, I was able to make up for any loss and actually made some good profit because of pivoting to Ode Osborne. So make sure you guys, if you're watching it and you have nothing going on tonight, make sure you're watching the fights. Live betting is great, and I would definitely take advantage of it.
Tabitha Ricci is the sneakiest play on the slate. That is, I would label that in the hot take category, Pete.
Yeah, it's a hot take. I was trying to convince myself this is what I always do. I go in the mid range and I'm like, okay, this person's going to break the slate. And then I start figuring out how they can and why they can. I think that she can land takedowns galore. The issue is that she's going up against Jessica Penne, who is 40 years old, which is not good. But she can scramble decently well and kind of like throw her legs to avoid some poor positions on the mat. So like she can take your back really well. And I found it quite interesting when I went back and I watched the Jessica Penne Lupi Godinez fight. I think Lupi Godinez is a better wrestler than Tabitha Ricci. I think Ricci's pretty damn good. But like Jessica Penne was able to take her back and sweep out of submissions and reverse positions quite often there. So I just think she's kind of weird. She's a weird matchup for a lot of people. Tabitha Ricci could go out there and basically replicate the performance she did against Poliana Viana. She was put in some danger with guillotines and triangles. I don't necessarily think Jessica Penne is going to land one of those submissions, but if you only score 93 against Poliana Viana, I mean, that's kind of like MMA math, but I don't necessarily see her exceeding 93 against Jessica Penne, who I think from a skill standpoint is a little bit better than Poliana Viana.
How do we account for Valentina's last fight?
Yeah, I don't think that this matchup has anything to do with last fight. I think it's um, a little foreshadowing as to what could come, where we have a dominant grappler and Aaron Blanchfield going out there and putting together that complete Tyler Santos performance. I actually think you could have scored the fight for Tyler Santos. I did not like it at all, and you still had Shevchenko score massively on the slate. So styles make fights. I don't think that this matchup here against Alexa Grasso is the style that's going to beat Valentina Shevchenko. So for me, it's kind of like irrelevant for this specific matchup.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just all comes down to the stylistic matchup. If Alexa had a grappling base, I would be much more interested to go there. I also think if she had a grappling base, the salaries would be a little bit different there. Just that's kind of my take on it. Let's see here.
Got some good conversations going on in chat, and we really appreciate it. Hit that like button for us, guys. Get us to 100, please.
Priority fights.
Well, I love it.
Garbrandt Jones, Gamrot Turner would be my top two priority fights outside of the title fights.
Okay, so my number one priority fight would be Dricus du Plessis, Derek Brunson. I think one way or another, it's going to score well. Then I would say Garbrandt Jones, just because they're, like Garbrandt should style on him, but Jones can land that powerful shot. And then I actually will go with, I'll agree with you and say the third is Turner Gamrot.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's, high volatility in some of those. I mean, and, to me, where Gamrot is someone that I've really leaned on is because of that takedown upside that he has. I mean, he's going to have to utilize grappling. He can't sit there and have a fight range. I mean, it's just, I don't think he can win a fight that way. He had, because he's at a 7-inch reach disadvantage in this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that his game plan is to stand and trade. I think that would be the worst game plan of all time. I went back and I watched the Matt Frevola Jalen Turner fight, and it made me more confident that Mateusz Gamrot can actually pull this off. I think that when it hits the mat, as long as it hits the mat once, I think it's his fight. Jalen Turner was out controlled, out scrambled by Matt Frivola, who's a pretty talented wrestler, but not on the level of Mateusz Gamrot at all. And I went back, and Jalen Turner got back to his feet decently well and punished Frivola, kind of threatened with a knee up the middle, some hard shots on the feet, even some sneaky submissions. Like he'll go after a guillotine, but I really can see a guy in Gamrot just using that to reverse position and keep the scrambling going. And Matt Frivola didn't really score that well for how many takedowns he landed against Jalen Turner. He scored mid 80s. So I think that if Mateusz Gamrot cannot find the finish, and it's the exact same fight or close to it, then mid 80s ain't going to do it for Mateusz Gamrot. We need either takedown city or a takedown into a finish. So it all comes down to if you think that he can get the finish or not.
Best DK captain, and what do you think of the 4-pound weight advantage for Neal? We've kind of talked about that, but in terms of the best DK captain, the ones that I really looked at is, I mean, look, I think that Jones will be popular because of the price tag that you're going to get in the captain role. Shevchenko, I think, will be popular, and very good reasons why she should be popular. I mentioned about Gamrot is someone else that I would look at in that captain role as well. I wouldn't look at Bo Nickel. I mean, it's a huge price tag. Plus, I think Bo's probably going to win quickly. So I think there's some higher upside with some other fighters.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. And that's the thing is like Bo Nickel wins. If he wins really quick, that's great. But if he wins outside of the first minute, that could actually ruin everything. And you just wasted so much salary on him for what reason? So I told you I'm really, really aggressive on one fighter today, and let me just make sure that he's a part of it, and he's not.
Yeah, he's not part of it.
But I would have to say, I'd have to say that _Dsricus 𝗶𝘀🐺 would be the guy that I would be super aggressive on for the captain contest.
I'm not a big captain contest player, but I did throw a single bullet in, and I did put Gamrot as my captain.
I think it's a safe floor for the captain.
Yeah. I mean, to me, where the captain contest is a struggle with is the underdog. Who is that underdog you're going to go to? And you start looking at that low end. So you got Pickett at 4,600, Grasso 4,800, Neal 5,000, Brunson 5,200, Turner 5,400. And then you got Trevin Jones 5,800. Those are all the fighters that are underneath 6,000. So like I look at that range and I say like, okay, who would be the ones that I would want to prioritize? Trevin Jones, Jalen Turner, Derek Brunson would be those three. And the reason is because of if they're going to win, the likely scenario is a stoppage, especially when you're talking about Jones and Turner. And Brunson, to me, it's even in a decision, he could rack up a ton of points with the grappling.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything 5,200 and up is good. Imagine if you played 150 lineups for the captain contest. I think that it would be pretty interesting. I haven't done so. I've always, if I play the captain at all, it's like, oh, it's going to be a crappy night, and I'm just going to throw one lineup into the captain contest. I've never really seriously taken the captain contest, as a part of my contest selection, but I mean, it could be just easy money because it could be a ton of people doing the same thing that we are doing. You know what I mean? Like one lineup here, a little single bullets. But yeah, I'm gonna say that anything 5,200 and up is fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my lineup right now and figuring out who I want to put in that last spot. The problem is like I put Cody Garbrandt in my lineup, so can't go Trevin Jones.
Yeah,
I can't go Turner because I got Gamrot, and so now I'm stuck at that Derek Brunson, Jeff Neal, or stacking the main event, which I don't love the thought process of stacking this fight because
I hate it.
Well, this is my problem though. If you're stacking the main event, I think you have to be rooting for a Ciryl Gane win, because what is Ciryl Gane's floor if we're talking about he's getting taken down and controlled on the mat? That could be now if the fight stays on the feet, okay, I don't mind stacking it, but that's just my concern in terms of stacking the main event.
Yeah, I think for the captain contest, they're both so damn cheap that if it touches the later rounds, it could set yourself up in a unique way. I always bring it up. 𝗫𝗄𝗄 Glover Teixeira
Hmm.
was fireworks, and we expected that to be an early finish. And people who stacked that fight completely made out because they broke everything. They broke the slate together. So perhaps we have the goat stepping up to heavyweight, and he's going to be truly tested against a natural heavyweight. And that sometimes there's outliers. Tonight could be an outlier as far as performance goes.
Next up, Andrew goes, really, Pete? 𝗲𝗵𝗲? He looked really raw. Mana is bad, but his striking isn't bad. 𝗲𝗵𝗲's chin is really up in the air.
I would agree, Andrew, saying that Simon's chin is up in the air. I thought that he was going to be pretty green going into the contender series, but his aggressiveness and his knack for fighting every single minute is something that I really like. Whereas it seems like Mana Martinez takes a little bit to get into a flow, somewhat of a slow starter, knocked down numerous times against Ronnie Lawrence, can't wrestle to save his life. So I think between the grappling of Simon and the power that Simon possesses, as long as he doesn't get hit with something stupid like a spinning back fist, like how Ronnie Lawrence did at the end of their fight and almost lost, I do think that Simon should style here and pick up a pretty dominant win.
Cody or Viviana Araujo on FanDuel? I would prefer Cody.
I'm gonna go Araujo for me personally. I just think that fight's closer and less volatility.
It's. I mean, look. I mean, it's tough to trust Cody at this point in his career. I mean, there's no, you can't deny that. But to me, it's more. I'm looking at the ceiling for Cody versus the ceiling of Araujo, and I just think it's just a different level.
I mean, there's knockdowns galore within that matchup. It's crazy to see what Cody was doing to everybody. His speed, his confidence. I mean, if you go through his record, he has so many knockdowns. It's ridiculous. Two knockdowns in his debut against Marcus Brimage, one against Henry Briones, one against Augusto Mendez, Thomas Almeida, Takeo Mizugaki, and even Dominic Cruz. Two against Dominic Cruz, and he knocked down TJ Dillashaw before he was knocked out. But there's something to say about being 1-5 in your past six, and he's definitely fallen on hard times. So I think that fight's pretty volatile.
We got 7 minutes till lock, so I do want to try to get in most of these questions as possible. Neil or Blackshear as a dog in a single entry GPP on DraftKings?
I'm gonna go Neil.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Let's see here. If you had to pick the highest scoring over 9,000, who is it? I would go Shevchenko.
I'm going Ian Gary.
And my thought process would be she's got 5 rounds to work with, being able to rack up points on the mat. Let's see here. Can Pete last a round versus Jalen Turner? It's crazy that Pete's a 55er, and if he stood next to Turner, you'd probably look like a 35er.
Not right now. I'll tell you what, not right now. I would look like Turner.
So you're saying you're enjoying? Are we going in dad bod mode already?
No, I'm in great shape right now. But I'll tell you what, I definitely feel like Jalen Turner, and yeah, I mean, it was pretty damn big for 45, and I think the same thing's going to kind of carry over to 55.
Yeah. Let's see here. Who breaks your lineups?
Well,
it'd probably be honestly. It'd probably be John Jones for me.
Yeah, it might be Mana Martinez for me. I have virtually none.
Yeah, I mean, and the reason I'm saying breaks my lineups, I'm more looking in the negative light of saying that I just have so much John Jones say that if he doesn't come through, yeah, it won't be a good day for him. Flat out, it's just the reality of it.
I got some of my boys in chat who are the big John Jones guys, and I got my boy Dan in here as the big Gon supporter. So can't wait to see how it actually goes tonight.
Yeah. Do you think the main event fighters fall into the optimal lineup?
I say yes.
Yeah, my gut says yes. I do wonder in a 5-round decision, and if it's a Gane decision, I don't know if Gane ends up optimal.
14 fights. I mean, you'd probably be smart to get away from it, but
Yeah.
I think the more likely thing is that it does end up optimal.
Yes, for people asking about Pete is clearly the president of the Strill Gone fan club. Apparently, Tom Aspinall and Alexander Romanoff are kind of wondering what happened.
Listen, no, no, not at all. Like I like Ciryl Gane tonight, and I think that if Tom was healthy, I'd be picking Tom over Ciryl Gane.
You guys don't think Neil wins and ends his undefeated record. I do not expect Jeff Neal to win today.
Yeah, I don't either.
How does Ian Gary become the highest score?
Multiple knockdowns, sneaky ground and pound upside too, sneaky takedowns. He literally can finish this fight however he wants, and I like the versatility because Song Kenan hits pretty damn hard, and maybe Song Kenan gets back to his feet. All you need is like 2 knockdowns en route to a finish, and then you could actually just completely break the slate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just making sure I got my right lineup for the Fight HQ contest.
Yeah, let me see. If you guys haven't joined the contest, please watch. Please join, and then watch as Jason wins for the 3rd week in a row. And I'll be somewhere towards the bottom because I just get a little too aggressive in our solo contest.
Yeah. It's I'm looking at different things for that contest.
I think I have a pretty chalky line.
I feel like I have to have John Jones in my contest while I've been talking him up the past 2 days.
Yeah, you better. You better, dude. If you don't have John Jones in your contest,
you're calling shenanigans?
Yeah, bro. I'll be like, bro, really? No. I tell you what, I have Ciryl Gane in our contest, so.
Let me throw this one out here.
Okay.
We get a quick finish tonight, but it's not Bo Nickel. Who is it?
Quick finish bonus?
Yes, quick finish bonus. There's one person that stick. I was going to say 𝗵𝗲.
That's who I was thinking too. But I'm going to go Ian Gary.
Just the way Brunson runs in with his chin up, that's where I think he could get caught.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Richie, come on, bring yourself in that contest. You know what? I've been in the top 3, every week so far. So, me talking this crap now means I'm going to finish like dead last. I mean, that's the way that's the way this stuff works.
You're pretty
man.
good at cash games and solo entries. So
I will tell you, I love playing cash more. I mean, like, look, we love to chase the money in GPPs. But I would say I'm definitely more of a cash. AJ, the contest is pinned in the chat, so you can log right in there. It's also in the description as well.
Yes, sir.
Who's a fighter we're not talking about?
I was just gonna say that. Who are we not talking about at all? Farid Basharat, probably.
I was gonna say Tabitha Ricci.
We kind of touched on her. I mean, she's got good takedown upside. She has good ground and pound. And she's
how about Amanda Ribas? Takedown upside.
I don't like that fight. I don't like her like score. She could win the fight, but I don't know. Yeah. Scored 51 against 𝗀𝗪𝗓 in a loss. It's like, oof.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of looking at who else on this card maybe we haven't really talked about. I feel like we've kind of touched on everybody. I mean, we really haven't touched much on Jamie Pickett. I wouldn't get there at all on Jamie Pickett. I mean, it's just something I would not do. I mean, look, I think if you're Jamie Pickett, you know what's coming. And I almost feel like you just gotta throw that bungalow right at the start of the fight and try to get some respect.
Clearly, he doesn't know what's coming because he didn't know who the hell he was.
How do you not know who Bo Nickel is? That's my biggest question.
I don't know. Half of these guys that don't watch other combat sports or other sports that kind of intertwine with MMA, it blows my mind. It's like saying you don't know who Gordon Ryan is. If you don't know who Gordon Ryan is and you are a part of MMA, like, you're a fool, because at one time, you could possibly get an opportunity against them. So you got to know what the hell you're up against.
Yeah, of course, we have hit locked here. I just was going to hop into the big GPP and kind of see what some of the ownership is.
Oh, DQ wins. That's a good point, Tristan. He says he has 3% picking in case of a DQ win. What was that guy's name? Mike
Jackson.
Mike Jackson got the DQ win and broke the slate and shouldn't have happened. Yeah.
𝗏𝘶𝗏𝗏, 12% owned in the big GPP.
Yeah. Told you that's the guy we're not talking about. He's so damn low owned.
𝗉𝗵𝗃 is 27%.
Holy moly, that's a lot.
𝗃𝗫𝗀𝗀,
12.
yeah, 𝗃𝗫𝗀𝗀 39%, 𝗲𝗏𝗏 31%, 𝗂𝗵𝗲 35%.
My boy Ian Gary, 20%.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find some other ones that maybe you haven't seen yet. John Jones is 38%.
I really thought that was going to inflate to 50%.
I did too.
I am absolutely shocked. I thought that ownership was wrong. You guys heard me. I was like, yeah, that's not going to be under 40.
𝗲𝗏 Gone is at 30%.
People pivoting away from the main event in 14 fight card. Could work out, could not.
Interesting. We talked about pivotal fights today. Jalen Turner, 35% owned.
Oh my God.
𝗵𝗏𝗏, 27% owned.
Should be flipped.
Yeah, I think that tells you a little bit on that contest. I'm going to go for it as a Fight HQ. Let's just see who some of this ownership is on Fight HQ. Jones 44, Bo 50%, Cody Garbrandt, who's in my lineup, is only 8% owned.
Damn.
Oh, you boys better hope Cody Garbrandt doesn't go out there and just look like 2016 Cody Garbrandt.
Well, what's your lineup in our contest? Let me hear it.
Jones, Nickel, Araujo, Grasso, Garbrandt, Gamrot.
You went Grasso in our single? You sneaky little devil. All right, I went
to be able to get to some of the options I wanted to get to.
Oh, Nickel. All right, I went 𝗲𝗏 Gane, du Plessis, Araujo, Ian Gary, Gamrot, Trevin Jones. Shaking in your boots over there. I know you.
One of the cash lineups, I took Jones out, and I swapped in du Plessis, and it got me away from the main event and co-main event.
Okay, I like it.
But wow. Yeah, we've reached
easier way to see all this ownership. You know what I mean? Like, they should just have the player pool as soon as it locks. Just show what the damn ownership is for everybody without having to go from lineup to lineup. It's stupid.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But that is going to wrap it up for us. We appreciate everyone tuning in here on Fight Day. Of course, we do got a fight card next week. That is the Yan Merab fight, which will be in front of fans. So looking forward to that one next week. Of course, as always, appreciate you tuning in. And Pete, anything you want to leave the people with?
No, not at all. I just want to say thanks for tuning in, guys. I mean, 2 shows this week, and you guys crushed it. Really appreciate the support. Jason and I can't say it enough. Whether you're subscribed to the channel or you're hitting the like button on the videos, listening to us on the podcast platforms, just coming here and showing your support. We really appreciate it, and we're going to keep it rolling.
And we will see you here next week for that Vegas card, and appreciate you tuning in. And, of course, be sure to join our Score channel. I'll be in there during the pay-per-view. Won't be there during the prelims, but appreciate everyone tuning in for this episode of Fight HQ.